I hot glued these wires to my seat with their end connected to a cable where I can just plug into the wall. Okay, there we are. Where the f is it? The whole seat is melted. Oh!
What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So today is Sunday. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an awesome weekend. Having a look at what is going on. Bitcoin is up 0.37%. Really nothing too amazing. However, what is interesting is if we have a look at the altcoins are doing quite well today. They're definitely outperforming Bitcoin on the short term. You can see Ethereum up 4.5%, EOS 10.5, Litecoin 3.5. Okay, so the altcoins are doing quite well. I heard somebody yell alt season in the background. We're going to talk about that moving forward. I do want to talk about the Bitcoin price short term because some analysts are calling for some pretty ugly numbers. 7.4K potentially. Right, we are in this wedge, which I'll get into in just a second. You could see, though, this morning we dipped down to about $10,272 and instantly wicked back up to that $10,400 level we've been sitting at. It's basically like we just erased 6 days right off the board, and we're exactly where we were at the beginning of the week, right? So, that being said, I do want to talk about that because let's be honest, guys. Basically, we're just in this giant descending wedge, okay? Everyone's looking at the same thing, okay? And it's getting quite boring. However, there are some people that are concerned that this is starting to mimic this that happened back in 2018 where we plummeted 50% at the end of the wedge. So this is what I want to talk about today. Are we looking for another potential plummet when we get to the end of this? Are we going to go down to 7.4K? Well, on top of that, I do have an interesting chart that does show that Bitcoin is still on track for $100,000 by 2021. And I also want to talk about one other thing that Bitcoin just did. No, it's not a fractal pattern. And the last time that Bitcoin did this, we pumped 400%. Actually, the last 2 times Bitcoin did this, we pumped 400+%. So if that sounds good to you guys, we are going to rapid fire today. We're just going to get right to the point. It is Sunday. I know you guys got places to go. Also, if you are new to the channel and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? We do this every single day, even during boring markets, even on Sundays. And tomorrow is the Ledger Nano S giveaway, which means that today is the last day to drop a comment below and you are eligible. So that is the situation moving forward. Let me have a look. Also, guys, really just quick side note, it has been a little bit boring and I've been looking to do maybe more like interviews on the channel, you know? So I just wanted to ask you guys, who would you like to see me interviewed? You know, drop it below. It could be anybody. It could be a project, you know, a thought leader, an analyst. It could be another influencer. I don't know. Let me know who you'd like to get on the channel and I'll definitely reach out because I'd like to start, you know, kind of like mixing it up a little bit on the channel, you know what I mean? So anyway, let me give this a quick refresh live. You are noticing that the Bitcoin dominance has fallen down to 70.4%. Have a look at this. So Bitcoin 0.2 and look at all this green in all of these altcoins. Wow. So your biggest gainer today, you actually have Energy up 16%, Cosmos 15, Hypercash 11, EOS 10, Qtum 9, Verge 8, BitTorrent, Tezos, Tron, V Systems. Very good day today for the altcoins. So we will take that. You notice Bitcoin dominance has even pulled back on TradingView to about 72.3%. Moving over to the real 10 volume, it is actually higher than I had anticipated for the weekend. And don't forget, Monday tends to be usually Bitcoin does have a move on Monday because what happens is even though crypto trades 24/7, even on the weekends, you still see these traders psychologically just not trade on the weekends, which is weird. So I look for a move usually in the US nighttime, because the East tends to wake up, so like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock Eastern time, you usually see a Bitcoin move. I'm sure if you're watching, you already know that. But having a look right here, you're noticing strong sell on Bitfinex. Don't know what's going on over there. It looks like everybody else is buying. Okay, shorts and longs pretty much mixed right now. So we are sitting right on the 50. I mean, we've just been hugging this damn moving average. Having a look at what happened this morning, you do notice that we actually got supported by the blue box territory and we are sitting above that $10,383 level. So currently Bitcoin is respecting these short-term supports, right? Obviously, this is the triangle that everybody's looking at right now. Now, look, we do have massive declining volume, and we are getting closer and closer. Now, I do want to point out, though, that it is putting in higher lows. You can see this dotted green right here. You know, even if you look at these wicks, where they, not so much the wicks, but the bodies, you can see we are putting in, or I should say the solid candles are putting in higher lows. Okay, so that is a good thing. So we might come out here to the end, you know, around the beginning of October, middle of September, or we might have a breakout even sooner than that. A lot of these tend to break out 60 to 70% full, right? But here is the bearish scenario, because let's entertain both sides of the coin here, pun intended. Well, I think this is the most likely scenario according to BTC Jack Sparrow. We bleed our way to 7.4K in a falling wedge bottom in early November. From there, we push in to break out and throttle full force, making our way back above 10K late November in December, and then set course for all-time high. So basically, you know, if you have a look over here, if you do notice, we did talk about the fact that Bitcoin doesn't ever, well, at least it hasn't on the last two occasions, broken its all-time high before the halving event. Now, we know that these purple lines represent the halving, and the halving is set for some time in the middle of May next year. We don't know the exact date because it's based on blocks, but having a look right here, you do notice that we are sitting well above this parabolic trend. And considering that this green line represents the top, it is possible, you know, that Bitcoin may want to come down here and retest some of these levels before, you know, skyrocketing back up again. So if that is the case, then yes, Bitcoin could come down and touch a level possibly around, you know, that $7,000, maybe like he said, 7.4K level, because we are in this descending channel. As you can see right here, if we do break out of this and we break out of this danger zone and fall, well, we will be supported by this purple line. You can see it's a channel that's been moving downwards. Now, obviously, we've been going up, and with the exception of this little, bear trap right here, it does look like we're looking for this breakout by mid-September, but we are anticipating it a lot earlier. We've still been supported by that $10,100 level, $10,200, depending which exchange you're looking at. And you can see Peter Brandt, he even says Bitcoin meets the definition of a descending triangle. Don't let newbie chartists tell you different. Right-angled triangles imply, but do not demand, a resolution through the horizontal boundary. So once again, you know, the question is, are we going to have to drop lower the same way that we did in November at the end of 2018? Well, he actually goes down here, and interestingly enough, he says, in full disclosure, I must inform you that I am long BTC as a position trader, yet as a swing trader, I must respect classical charting principles. This descending triangle is not a descending triangle until it is completed. And he goes on to say, there have been numerous occasions over the years when price blew out of the upside of a descending triangle. When this happens, it's referred to a descending triangle failure. So just because we're all looking at the same chart, and yes, a lot of people think that this does have to be a bearish move, it doesn't necessarily have to be. In fact, smart money and the whales tend to do the opposite of what everybody's saying. And if we're all looking at this descending triangle and we all think that we're going to have to do something similar, you know, like we're going to have to bounce around here, just for an example, and, you know, do something like this, we kind of bounce around, and then all of a sudden we get to the end and we fall like this, basically like we did back in the day before pumping back up again. That's what they're saying. So that's why they're calling for these levels of maybe going down to 7.4K. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Well, let me show you something extremely bullish right now. This is according to Nunya Business. He says occasions where Bitcoin had 3 or more consecutive negative weeks within a bull trend. Now, you can look at this. He obviously only points out the 2 most recent, but we can go back in history and see that when we do tend to put in a bull trend, 3 or more weeks of negative gains, you tend to have a parabolic blast off following that. Now, let me show you 2 examples that he gave, right? So we have these 3 weeks back here in March of 2017, and then we went to the 20th, right? Now let's look at what we did there. So from the bottom, we put in 3 consecutive negative weeks, right? So I'm going to start here, and until the next top where we started to dip, it basically was about 161 days, and Bitcoin pumped 444%, right? Then we had our next dip. It was about a 40% pullback. We had 3 weeks, again, of negative. You could see right here. And then from the close of the bottom to the negative, well, I don't have to tell you guys what happened. We basically went to the all-time high, and Bitcoin put in another 444% increase, which is kind of interesting that it's the same number. And that time it only took 84 days. Now, keep in mind that this is during bull trends. Now, I do currently believe that we are in a bull trend right now. And as you can see, Bitcoin has put in 1, 2, 3, okay, just like we did back here, and now we've put in our first green candle. So essentially, if I take the chart we were just looking at and minimize it and look towards a 444% increase, which I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that is what happened the last 2 times, well, let's plot it. Well, we would be looking at about a, let's see, about a $57,271 Bitcoin. So that is just something to keep in mind moving forward. So does history have to repeat itself? Not necessarily, but it often does tend to rhyme. But short-term outlook, could we potentially, dip below 10K again? Absolutely, guys. We do have that support at the bottom. But once again, I do want to just mention that we have been held nicely above the EMA ribbon. You could see the 20 is sitting at about 9,213. And according to my buddy Josh Rager, he says currently tapping at the monthly resistance of 10,760 to break the trend and close a higher high. We would want to see price break to the last level at about 11,983. This is the last major level of supply demand in 2019 and can assume for price to retest yearly highs after close. And also, I just wanted to zoom in here, and you do notice that around that level, there's not much going on the VPVR. So it's definitely open for price discovery above those levels. But super quick, I wanted to point out this article. Now, I'm not the first person to talk about this. I have seen this before, but I have not spoken about it on my channel. So, I want to talk about it too. So this is from Harold Christopher Berger, okay? And basically, he just looks at essentially Bitcoin's natural long-term power law corridor of growth. Now, stick with me, but I'm not going to go into it because there's a lot of math involved, and he takes all these different charts. I mean, it would be an hour for me to make a video on this right now, but I do just want to focus on this main chart here. But before we start, I highlighted this paragraph and I thought it was really important. He says, I'm quite confident that in the long term, the price will indeed evolve approximately as stated in the article. In fact, I think it is more likely for these predictions to be too low rather than too high. So just keep that in mind before we get into it. I believe that Bitcoin has more potential upside than downside to large exogenous shocks, but this article will not try to make any predictions regarding large shocks. Instead, we will assume that things continue as usual. So here's the chart right here. I'm going to zoom into this and then we're going to talk about it. So having a look at this right here, you can essentially see that they say basically they're going to look at the full price history of Bitcoin, and you can see that Bitcoin's price evolution can be understood as moving within these corridors, which are defined by the 2. Okay, obviously they're using the red and the green, right? And it's based on time. While the idea of modeling Bitcoin's price, they say, is not new, we're definitely going to help support how Bitcoin could hit some of these prices. Now, before we even start looking at it, you can see right here, basically it's saying the price is going to reach $100,000 per Bitcoin no earlier than 2021, but no later than 2028. And the price will reach $1 million per Bitcoin no earlier than 2028, but no later than 2037. So essentially, we only have to wait till 2037 and Bitcoin will be worth $1 million, according to this graph. So my question is, why would you not want to try to own at least one? Listen, I know Bitcoins are expensive, okay? Not everyone has enough money to buy a Bitcoin, but dollar cost average, and imagine if that one Bitcoin did turn into $1 million, well, then you wouldn't have to be racking your brains all day looking at the charts, right? Just set it and forget it. So basically, you can see the price corridors are divided into 2 bands, the lower one and the higher one, okay? The one that's much larger and lying at the higher end, you have the Bitcoin price tends to be about equal amounts in both of these bands. But essentially, let me just basically break this down and get cut and dry to the chase. If you just have a look at it, basically, until now, each 4-year halving period had a bubble whose price was exceeded by the next period's bubble. Due to the point of slowing growth and corridor width, this is not guaranteed to continue to be the case in the future, but as an example, the model does allow for a price of $150,000 Bitcoin by the beginning of 2022. So how's that for short term? $100,000, $1 million, this thing's going to the moon. I will drop this below. This article is very involved, guys. A lot more to it. I didn't want to go into the whole thing. Plus, a lot of other people had spoken about it, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Now, having a look at the altcoins are pumping today. They're doing quite well. However, we are getting very close to this critical zone right here, and I have this 12th, the 12th listed basically because that's when Binance is officially kicking off U.S. citizens. Yeah, that's basically right around the corner. So we will have to see. Also, let's talk about some coin news and get on out of here. So 100 million XRP have just been transferred to Jeb McCaleb. He was the previous, co-founder of Ripple. We also have Hudson Jameson, community manager at Ethereum Foundation, confirmed that the Istanbul hard fork is expected to be activated on testnet Ropsten on or around October 2nd. So basically, as per previous meetings of the group, which comprises a diverse set of Ethereum stakeholders, the plan for Istanbul is 2 phases. Number 1, this consists of 6 EIPs estimated to go live on the Ethereum mainnet in October. And phase number 2, which consists of those EIPs such as the proposal to make Ethereum more ASIC resistant by moving to a programmatic proof of work consensus algorithm that needs further testing and deliberation from core developers. And finally, we have some good news coming out of Ledger. So a lot of people have been asking, when are they going to add more ERC20 tokens? Well, currently they just did. In fact, how many did they add here? They added over 1,250 ERC20 tokens. And if you guys want the full list, you can come over here. I don't know why their website's not loading. I was just looking at this earlier. Come on, Ledger. Why? It's definitely the Ledger website. It's not the internet. Here you go. And it's not working. Maybe they're updating it currently. So essentially, here it goes. These are all of the different assets you can now hold, and it tells you they have the Ledger Nano X, S, Blue, Live, and other compatible wallets as well. So, I mean, you could see this list definitely got a lot bigger, and it looks like they're still in the process of updating it. So that being said, guys, I want to keep this video nice and short. It is the weekend. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Everyone that's been liking, subscribing, and commenting, you guys rock. Having a look at price right now, we are still waiting for some kind of a breakout or a breakdown. Definitely a difficult market if you are trying to trade this. Very boring right now, although altcoins are popping, so definitely check that out. So if you guys haven't checked out the Bybit tutorial, I do have a tutorial. I'll drop it above, and don't forget they are doing a promotion where if you deposit 0.1 BTC, you get $60, and if you do 0.2, you get 110. But that being said, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. I appreciate it really seriously, even on these boring days where the market's not really doing anything, but we do know Mondays tend to be a little bit more exciting. Also, if you want the Ledger, today is the last day. Don't forget to drop a comment below.